Hello again. This week I'm trying to address a couple of issues. First, I wanted to re-explain the way that our Facebook group works for those of you who are still having a little bit of trouble jumping on board and getting involved in the discussion boards and the event board. And then secondly, I wanted to address specifically where I want to take our end of the week events postings. So a lot of you guys are right on track with that. Some of us are still having problems, so I want to address those two issues so that we can really move in the next couple of weeks our Facebook group into a new direction. So first thing, I want to explain yet again how the events and discussion board works. And so here's kind of the basic overview. It might help if you pause me and get your syllabus out so that you can kind of follow along with what I'm talking about here. Excuse me. So every week is divided into two parts. So let's take next week, for example. There's part 3.1 and part 3.2. Part 3.1 is Monday and Tuesday. Part 3.2 is Wednesday and Thursday. And then the end of the week is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And so during the first two parts of the weeks, on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, you should be logging into Facebook for about an hour a day, just like you would come to class, physically attend class for about an hour a day, Monday through Thursday, and looking through what everybody else has said on the discussion boards, checking out the links that they've posted. Lots of people like to post videos or websites or articles that have statistics about the content that we're talking about that week. And so during the Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, in addition to reading whatever required text that we're reading, you should also be spending about an hour a day on Facebook just sort of catching up with everyone. And so, for example, you can see a lot of the times like RJ and David and Courtney and Kim, they have like these back and forth going where RJ will ask a question and then David will answer, or William will ask a question that David will answer, or Courtney will see something that RJ has said and respond and say, I don't understand this, or help me understand this, or Kiana will say, I have a totally different perspective, so let me jump in here. And that's what I'm calling chatter. And so on the main wall of our discussion groups, that's what that's for. Each week, part 3.1, part 3.2, 4.1, 4.2, each one of those, it's for your friendly chatter to go back and forth. And every now and again, if I see that the discussion is getting into a lot of personal details and a lot of personal biases and stereotypes and opinions, I'll jump in and sort of try to redirect the conversation to say, let's not get so heavy-handed with our own biases and our own assumptions that we forget that there are ways to check this and to verify this. Can we go out into the internet, or can we go out into reality, into the real world, and look and see if these biases are holding up? So when you guys say things like, all women do this, or I feel like some women do this, or some people do this, I'm always there to sort of challenge you and say, are you stereotyping, or is this an actual group of women, and can we find that group of women? And if we do find that group of women, have they been investigated thoroughly enough? So like one example is the hip-hop girls, the ones who perform on the videos, and the ones who give the impression that they like to sleep with lots of men and things like that. So I've told a couple of you guys, yeah, that's definitely a group of women. We see them on videos and stuff, but if we're standing above them and saying, here we are looking down on these women who do this, and they're bad, or they're immoral, or what they're doing is disrespectful to themselves, then we're definitely taking a look from on top. And so again, that's us putting our law onto these women. And so I ask questions like, why might these women be performing these actions? So I take for an example a post that I responded to, I think to David's post. Why are these women doing the things that they're doing? Why are these young girls sleeping with myriad men? Why are these young men sleeping with all of these women? Is it just because it's cool? Is it just because they see that in videos? Or could it also be a more complicated explanation than that? So like I give the example of a girl who is raised in a house that doesn't ever respect her, parents who never pay any attention to her, and she never gets the right grades, or doesn't ever do the right thing, or never gets the right honors in school. And so she is raised feeling very dishonored and disrespected by her family. And so maybe one in her 14, 15, 16-year-old mind, without the benefit of all the education and all the foresight and hindsight that we have as adults, she might think to herself, how can I be respected? And then she might see that man over there and say, maybe that man will respect me. And so if we're standing up here saying, how dare you do this, young girl, we sometimes need to sort of back up a little bit and say, wait a second, what might that young girl be trying to do? Is she really acting out of ignorance, or is there an actual desire within her to be respected, and the only way she knows how to go about doing that is to jump around until she finds someone who might respect her. Or maybe her mother modeled that behavior. Maybe her mother slept with lots of different men and never could find respect, and so, of course, when the girl looks up to her mother, she does that same behavior. So rather than just discounting them as disrespected hoes or whores or sluts, perhaps we can sort of start to get our mind wrapped around why they might do something like that, and how we as fourth wave or post-feminist or third wave feminists, how we might get involved in that battle with these girls rather than against them, right? So instead of othering them and saying, you're over there doing your thing, maybe we can try to like get inside their minds for a minute and ask, why might they be doing that? What's going on with them, and how can we send a message out to these young girls that that's not the only way to gain respect, that even if your family is not respecting you, there are other ways for you to gain respect. And so that's one of the first things that I wanted to talk about, was some of the ways that our posts are being articulated on the board, that a lot of the times they sort of disintegrate into personal biases and assumptions, and we get into these poking contests that we say, well, that woman does this, and that kind of woman does this, and that kind of woman does this. But when we do that, we're guilty of the exact same thing that the people in the 1800s were doing, which is to say, a woman can't do this. The only difference is nowadays we're making it more specific, and we're saying that kind of woman can't do this, and that kind of woman can't do this, or that kind of girl isn't even able to be a woman because she's a hoe. So hoes can't be women. You see what I'm saying? And so what I would challenge you guys to do over the next couple of weeks as we're continuing this course is to spend enough time on your discussion board post and your end of the week post that you have enough time to read through what you're saying with a critical eye. And you're asking yourself questions like, am I just furthering or reifying or reinforcing the stereotypes of some women can do this and some women can't do this, or some men act like this and some men don't act like this? Am I simply reinforcing those and laying down even more language on top of the language that's already been given? Or am I thinking through this and challenging myself to challenge those assumptions and challenge my own stereotypes? And so that's sort of my combined comment about the way that our discussion board posts are going. Every week you've got the chatter from Monday through Thursday, and then from Friday to Sunday you've got that end of the week discussion, that end of the week events post. And that end of the week events post from Friday to Sunday is your time to really write something that reflects the way that you're feeling about this week's readings. And I'm going to introduce a word here called synthesis. At your end of the week event posting, you're supposed to be synthesizing what you've read for the week. And so you know how to analyze. To analyze is to take things apart and to investigate the way that they're put together. And we're all sort of participating in that moment of analysis. But for the next couple of weeks, I want you to think about these end of the week event boards as really synthesizing. And the word synthesize means to bring together. So throughout the week, Monday through Thursday, in parts 1 and 2 of the week, we're sort of breaking these things down, and we're looking to see what is woman and what is man, and why are we able to say that kind of woman, and what does it mean that there's that kind of woman and that kind of man. And we're doing a lot of analysis. And at the end of the week, your goal is to bring it back together. And so for the next couple of weeks, I challenge you to come up with a central statement. Some of you guys might have heard of it as a thesis, but a central assertion or a central argument that you're making, and to support that with the readings from the week. And so several of you guys are doing that well, and if you're not doing it well yet, I've sort of given you some comments in response to the discussion board post for this week. So if you have questions about the way that I'm wanting to kind of push our class or challenge our class to move toward letting go of our biases and assumptions and really questioning those biases and assumptions, then you can email me with those questions. But for now, I would say that before you post those end of the week events discussions, instead of just posting them into Facebook, I would definitely post them into a Microsoft Word document first. Reread them several times and ask yourself questions like, is this all based in my own personal opinion, or am I gathering intelligence and data and actualities and realities from the real world around me, including the texts that we read for each week? And am I sort of challenging my own biases and assumptions based on what I'm reading, or am I just sort of rehashing the same old things that I've been thinking my whole life? And there's nothing wrong with what you've been thinking your whole life, but this class's goal is to have you to take those things that you've been thinking and really put them up against what's going on in the world and challenging those things and making sure that they're butting heads and struggling with them. And that causes you to be uncomfortable, it causes you to feel a little funny, and that's what this class is for, is to sort of start to challenge the way that we've always perceived things so that we can move forward instead of sort of regressing back or always relying on what we already know to be true. And so that's my little spiel about the discussion boards and the end of the week events. I hope that clarifies some things. If not, post your questions to the general discussion board.